Greetings from the Fish God. Hey, I'm excited to share another video with you today. And as always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and like. We always like to have some feedback, so leave me some feedback. It's great to hear from fellow anglers. Today we're going to be tying a bare naked nymph. Give you a little backstory on this. A couple years ago, I was fishing one of the lakes that I have close to me. It's 5 minutes away from my house, and I spent a little time out there. I was fishing a pheasant tail. There were fish rising, and they were not interested in dries. And I was fishing a pheasant tail nymph, and they were eating it pretty well. Fact is, they ate it so well that they tore that fly up after, a couple dozen fish. It was getting so tore up, there was no tail, there was no body. I had to cut the ribbing off. All that was left was a thorax, a wing case, and legs. So at the end of the day, and it was a very successful day. At the end of the day, I clipped it to a pair of hemostats, and I said, I'm going to tie some up without all of the accoutrements of a pheasant tail, just the same way that it looked, tore up. So I put it in a drawer, and a year went by, and one day I was looking through my drawer, and I saw that stuck to a pair of hemostats, and I thought, I'm going to tie some of these up. So I did. I went down to the same lake. Again, tore them up. I mean, this thing was incredibly successful. So I was telling a friend of mine that fishes that lake frequently. He said, I'd like to try some. So I gave him a couple. And he texted me that day and said, man, I just tore them up. And he says, can you tie me a couple dozen? So I did. He took those flies, went to a different lake, a little higher elevation lake. He says, I caught my first tiger trout on one of those bare naked nymphs. And I went, wow, that's great. So he said, this is wonderful. He said, I need a couple dozen. So I tied him a couple dozen. He's been fishing them. I've been fishing them. So anyway, this is really something else. What I'm using today, I've got 8/0 thread. This is a size 16 hook. It's an Umpqua hook. It's a curved down eye, 2 extra long. The U204. And I found it, this just seems to be the size and the ticket for our waters. It's pretty simple. I'm going to take this. Start the thread, wrap back to about the halfway point on the hook shank, and now I'm going to tie in a wing case. All that's on this fly is pheasant tail and peacock, and that's it. I mean, that's the entire fly. I've got a piece of pheasant tail here. I'm going to take off some fibers, and I'm going to basically separate maybe 1/4 inch of fibers off of this. So let me separate them and show you what I'm going to do. When you look at pheasant tail, the tips are all, they look like they're all, because they're at an angle, they're all at a different length. The tips aren't actually at a different length. They're all the same length. If you pull them 90 degrees out and then take a look at them, they're all at the same length. So I'm gonna strip those off the quill, as I've done there, by pulling the quill, not the fibers, just the quill. Okay, and pull it away. I've trimmed off the curlies. If there's a couple shorts, and there's a short one in there, you can get rid of it. It's not going to make a whole lot of difference. I'm going to reposition them in my hand, in my material hand, which is my left hand, to where I've got the tips. And I'm going to tie down the tips right here at that tie-in point. So what you do when you're doing a pinch wrap, let me get my hand position a little bit better. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to lift my thread up and then jam it back into my fingers. Okay? And then pinch it with my fingers. Now I'm going to come around the back side of the hook and pull it straight down, and I'm going to pull it out of my fingers. That's going to position it right on top of the hook shank. Then I'm just going to tie down the rest of those curlies, or the rest of the tips, I should say. And it's positioned right on top. So I've got no worries here. The next next material I'm going to use is some peacock IceDub. Okay? This has become a staple for me. It's always present in my box. It's a great replacement for peacock herring. I found that peacock herring has changed over the years. I used to get these long, lush peacock herrings, and now they all seem trashy. And so I don't use them near as much as I used to. I love the look of peacock. I think the fish like it, but again, the peacock herrings just aren't what they used to be. I don't know if the bird's gotten different or the processing's gotten different. I'm going to put a pinch of this IceDub on here, and IceDub is a incredible synthetic, but it's also hard to work with. Normally, when I put dubbing on, I always spin one direction with my fingers like this, where I pinch it and squeeze. With IceDub, I'll just grind it up with my fingers and get it kind of scrunched and crinkled to where it becomes more manageable. Once I've done that, then I'll spin it all one direction. Okay? Once I've got that where I want it, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this. I'm going to cover up the thread all the way back to the wing case, wrap forward. See how it's getting loose here at the bottom end? I'm going to tie that down a little bit more. In fact, I'm going to add a little bit more dubbing. I want a fat thorax. I think a fat thorax really adds to this fly. So I'm going to add a little bit more dubbing. I'm used to taking whatever I think I need and cutting it in half. And now I'm starting to figure out I just don't need as much, and I end up adding more. It's easier to add than it is to take off. So I'm crunching it, getting it to go around my thread. I'm keeping my thread tight. I'm holding the bobbin with my left hand down and keeping it tight. I'm going to leave myself plenty of room at the eye. When I'm ready to finish this, I want my thread to come back up to an eye length or so behind the eye. About there. All right. So I've got the body, the thorax dubbed, and it's pretty fat. You know, you can trim it if you want to. You can pick it out if you want to. You know, those are the things that make the fly buggy. I'm going to take about 1/8 of an inch of these fibers. And so there might only be 6 or 8 fibers that I'm going to be pulling off. You can see how I've separated them there. And I take them to 90 degrees. I pull the stem away. I trim the curlies. Okay. And now I'm going to use the tips. So I'm going to reposition these in my fingers to where I have the tips. What I'm going to do is turn this hook sideways. So now I'm looking at it from the top of the fly. I'm going to make these legs about just a hair longer than the thorax. Pinch them down. Throw a couple of wraps over, soft wraps, okay? And tighten them down. Then I'm going to take a look. Is that the right length? Oh, I like that. So then I'll throw a thread lock, locking wrap in front, and then trim off the excess. Now I'm going to do the other side the same way. So there's one side down. We're going to flip it over the other direction. I'm going to grab another 1/8 of an inch of fibers. Maybe 6, maybe 8 fibers. Fish don't count. They can't count legs. So if they're off by 1 or 2, so what? Nobody cares. Fish don't, I won't. Okay. I'm getting them positioned in my fingers again to where I can measure them. And say, okay, is that about the same as the other side? If it is, great. I'm going to throw a couple of loose wraps over. Tighten it down. Take a look. Is that about the same length? Oh, it might be a little longer. I'm going to adjust it a little. I'll just pull them. Okay. Throw another thread wrap over. If they slide on you, because we're still loose, you can pull them back. You can adjust them a little bit. Once I got them where I want them, okay, I'm going to go ahead and throw a locking wrap in. And I'm going to actually wrap back up on this to create a head. So I've come back on there a little bit. I'm going to trim off the excess on that second bunch of legs. Now I'm going to take the wing case and I'm going to come right between the legs. This will keep the legs separated. Okay? So the wing case is going to come right between. I'm going to hold it down with my thumb. I'm going to throw a loose thread wrap over the top. Okay? Once I got it underneath, I'm going to pull down. Okay? And then throw another loose thread wrap over the top. Wing case looks good. It's straight. Now I'm going to throw a locking wrap in front. Trim it. If you're crowding the eye at this point, you can take your thumbnail, if you have one. I trimmed my nails the other day, so I don't have one. You can take your thumbnail and push that back. That'll give you room to tie your knot, do whatever. Just gives you a little wiggle room. I'm going to take my whip finisher now. Lengthen my thread. Take my whip finisher. Throw a good whip finish. And because I typically don't use anything head cement, I'll throw a second one in there, tighten it down real good. And that's it. This is, again, a bare naked nymph. It's bare naked. It's a bare naked hook. I mean, all it's got is the legs, the wing case, you know, the underside's got a little sparkle to it, a little flash. But that stupid thing works. And if they work, great. Now, I'm going to put this in under Stupid Simple Series. I'm going to put it under a playlist called Stupid Simple Series. I've got several flies that are in my Stupid Simple Series because they're the kind of fly that you go, that probably shouldn't work, but it does. What does it imitate? It could be an emerger. It could be a water boatman. I mean, you look, that's the shape of a water boatman. It could be an emerger, just one with a, that's just really getting going. I'm not sure. I just know that the fish love it. Thanks for watching this video today. I hope you learned something. I'm reminded that fish have a brain the size of a pea, and yet they outsmart me. But every once in a while you come across something so simple as the bare naked nymph that you get the better of them maybe one day, maybe over and over. And those are the things you learn from anglers that spend a lot of time on the water. I hope you did learn something today. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please let us know. Don't forget to subscribe. Visit the website for more fly fishing knowledge and instruction, and hopefully eventually gear. Parting words. Remember, the gods don't deduct from a person's allotted span the hours spent fishing. I hope to see you on the river, at least on the water somewhere. Until next time, this is a Fish God signing off.